Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here at Campaign for America. It is 6:30 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States of America. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And particularly, I must give a special thanks to people from a number of countries in Europe, the Mideast, as far as Australia, have been tuning in. And we want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share what is going on in America with you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 or 4 different topics that will be of major interest to you. First of all, leaving Americans behind. Never would have believed in my lifetime that the United States military and its civilian government would leave Americans behind what I call enemy lines. We're going to be talking about that a little later, and we're going to give you an in-depth review as to exactly where we are and how we got there and where we're headed as a country. I've been on the air all week with major news networks on TV and radio talking about this issue. Also, what about Dr. Fauci? Well, Dr. Fauci has lied to the American people. He's presented false narratives, and we're going to be talking about that a little later. And then what we're going to do in a few minutes is speak to an American entrepreneur. Dawn Maloney is an American entrepreneur who has worked very hard over her lifetime to live the American dream. And John, I think that's important that when we see people like Dawn come on board, and she's going to be with us in a minute, building a business and working on a business, she is living and bringing to reality the American dream.
Yeah, I look forward to hear from her tonight, Steve. And it's at a time when America's small businesses need a shot in the arm. We need to have some people understand what these businesses go through, what it is like to start a business, and in America, for those not here, they may not know this, that most employment in America comes from small businesses, and that's unique to America. I've traveled Europe, and I've gotten to go to the best parts of Europe, and you can see the big cities are similar to ours, but the suburbs, if you will, the rural areas away from the cities, they don't have as much of thriving economies as we do here in America in our suburbs, and I think that's really because of entrepreneurs like her and other small businesses, and it's part of the American spirit. The founding of our country, individual freedom and the liberty to choose your freedoms and your own economic path.
Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Campaign for America is actually launching our tribute to American entrepreneurs. And now I'd like to welcome Dawn Maloney here on the air. Dawn, welcome to Campaign for America.
Hi, Steve. Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's always a pleasure and an honor to speak with you.
Well, let me share, Dawn, how you and I got to know each other. And John, you may not know this, but find this, we always say God works things in very interesting ways. Well, I did a lot of TV over at Fox News, and I was always ushered into a very professional makeup artist, and it was always Dawn. And so the only reason why I look good on the air, folks, is here she is, Dawn Maloney. She's done a lot of work. I guess you had to do a lot of work on me, Dawn. Is that true?
No, not at all. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, Steve, is our amazing conversations that we had, both very spirited conversations at 4 a.m.
Yeah. And we did some late night coverage with, I remember Ben Carson and Mike Huckabee, and we had the whole crew there. Well, Dawn, one thing that I have admired about you is you never stopped. You never quit. And could you share with the people? And John, you brought up a good point. If you could weigh in for 1 minute, John, for Dawn to hear this and the others, that through the dark winter that was brought to us by the present administration and the tough economic times we're facing, it's really encouraging to see how the American spirit is growing, and Dawn is really part of that.
Yeah, Dawn, I'm anxious to hear about your story. I'm sure there's going to be many people listening and watching tonight to hear about your story. So why don't you get to it? That would be great.
Well, thank you. Well, basically, like many Americans, I lost my job. I was laid off during COVID, and I quickly had to get into high gear. My husband, Jim, and I discussed, what were our options. And I had been building very slowly a social media presence by creating a lot of videos for my business. and promoting myself, my brand. And when that shift came in my life, in my career, I really had to buckle down and think to myself, is it proper? Is it efficient to start this big risk? Because entrepreneurship, business ownership truly is risky. And for anyone that thinks, oh, wow, owning your own business, it must be really fun and cool. You could do whatever you want, whenever you want. But truly, you are locked down for a period of time, either a small period or a long period. So it's really important to think about, what do I want to be tied down to? And of course, as Steve knows, I've been in the beauty industry for 25 plus years. I absolutely love it. I'm very passionate about it. I love women especially. And so this was the right choice for me. Although very scary, a lot of people ask me, are you sure? Is this the right time to do something like this? And I would refer back to many historical periods here in the US when our economy was down, when there were dark times, for instance, the Depression. There were a lot of very successful people that started during that time, and then they catapulted into success. So that's my bet on myself. That's my risk for me to do this at this time, in hopes that our economy will build and small business will make a comeback. And when it does make a comeback, I'll be part of that push.
What do you think, John?
I want to ask her a question. Let me ask you this, Dawn. What was outside of the economic necessity that you were put in? All right, you were given a choice of survive or not survive, correct? Mm-hmm. What did you look to for inspiration?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, inspiration, I really feel begins on the inside, and it's a strength and it's a grit. And it's the ability to focus on what you truly want and not listen to the noise that is all around you. Sometimes it's the negative voice in the back of your head. So having a really strong sense of faith that I could do this, because I've done it before. I was in business about 15 years ago. I said to myself, and of course my husband, who's my biggest cheerleader in life, if I could have done it then, I can do it now. And it's just that extreme faith and belief that everything will be okay. And I know that may sound a little Pollyanna to some people, but for me, it works.
Well, John, I think, Dawn, you bring up a good point. We've talked about faith in God and asking for strength. And I think in a day and age when we see the diminishing of any accountability to a God above, and any asking him, we talk about risk taking. Well, when we pray and we seek God's guidance, we're not taking any risk. We're doing exactly what he has called us to do. And in your case, he's blessed you, and you're going to be a blessing to people as we move forward. And John, I think that's, isn't that the essence of the American spirit when she brought up working hard and putting faith to work?
Well, that's the basis in the founding of America, and she's in agreement with that. And to use an old aphorism, from my childhood, or from all of our childhoods, you make lemonade out of lemons, and right. that's what you're doing. And the reason why I asked the question in terms of inspiration, obviously, you believe in yourself, and you believe in a higher power to motivate you. Did you do any research, outside work? Tell the audience some of the grit work that went into this before you actually laid down and opened up that bank account.
Oh my goodness. Wow. There is such a laundry list of things that you have to do. And thank goodness I have, again, my beautiful husband to help me through it, because when I started my very first business 15 years ago, it was just me. So I was the one researching for the place and reviewing the lease and building it myself. A lot of work goes into it. You have to have some type of business plan. Now, again, I've already done this type of business, so I knew what I was getting myself into, but still, things have changed. When I was in business, there really wasn't much of an internet. There wasn't any social media. So now marketing has changed. Your marketing dollars shift. You become the brand. You're the constant face of the business. I have to basically always be present on social media, because if I'm not, you just kind of get filtered down and you almost disappear. So technology is very important. A lot of people my age and people in our age group have a difficult time with technology. They're intimidated by it, and that's really important. In the past, I've taken a lot of classes with the Small Business Administration, also reaching out to other small business owners, kind of have like a little shoulder to cry on, or just a sounding board to talk about business ideas, what's working for them, what's not working for them. I have wonderful neighbors too. You know, here I am in Nutley, New Jersey on Franklin Avenue. This town has been really receptive and very happy and welcoming us here. And my surrounding businesses are very supportive as well.
Dawn, would you share what type of business you have? And
Sure.
big day on September 17th. I know John, myself, Natasha, the whole Campaign for America team will be there. So if you could share what type of business you have and tell us about September 17th. I know it's open to the public. Would you please share that with us?
Yes. Well, like Steve alluded to, I am a makeup artist and a licensed hairstylist, and the name of the business is The Makeup Studio. Very simple to brand, and I own makeupclasses.com. So I really believe in simple names, simple branding, so the customers know exactly what the business is about. We sell clothing, accessories, makeup. We also have men's grooming. I teach classes for both professionals and beauty enthusiasts. We do photo shoots and also service as well. And of course, sell products, lots of products. And our grand opening is September 17th. That's the official ribbon cutting with the mayor of Nutley. But we're celebrating all weekend long, 17th, 18th, and 19th. And if you check out the website, you can see all of the fun little events and little things that are scattered throughout the schedule. So a lot of fun.
That's great. And folks, we'll be there. John, myself, our team, Natasha from Campaign for America will be there. Like I said, we're celebrating American entrepreneurship. And John, what a way to kick it off, huh?
Well, I'm inspired. I had a few failed businesses in my past, moderately successful. It was probably a more accurate way to describe it. And I understand the stresses that you're up against. And that's why I asked the questions that I did. And Dawn, I wish you nothing but the best. I look forward to seeing you on the 17th.
Well, Dawn, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, John, this isn't my first rodeo. I've had many websites. I've tried many things and I failed. And I'm proud to say that. I think the way to success is through failure and to learn. But the most important thing is that when you're down, you get yourself back up. So many people, they roll in a ball, hide in a corner, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Well, you're not.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you September 17th. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, John, what a story, huh? It's nice to see some good news and good people see their dreams come true. And here at Campaign for America, that's what we try to do. Help people make their dreams come true. All right, John, lots going on. I've been busy night and day between the radio broadcast and the TV appearances. A lot going on in our country, a lot of concern. By the way, welcome residents from Australia who just tuned in. A couple more from France or Germany. I'm going to have to go back to that. But why are people tuning in from around the world, folks? They're tuning in because they're very, very concerned about what's happening here in America. I was on the air earlier on a radio broadcast, John, and the question came up, how do you think, or do you know, since you're involved in the intelligence field of national security, which I was my career, what do you think of our NATO allies? What do you think they're thinking about? And the answer is this, folks. They're very concerned. They're very concerned, as if the United States will step up and do what we must to defend freedom and liberty around the world. The message I want to get, John, and I know you do, and I'll ask you to weigh in on this, and I've done this all week, and folks, it's important that you help us do this because you'll be talking to a lot of people. Because Joe Biden turned his back not only on our allies, not only on the people of Afghanistan, not only on Great Britain and France and Germany, I could go down the list, because he turned his back on all of these people, including the people of our nation. The American people will never turn their back on our friends and allies. People need to understand that this is a republic. This is a free country. Because the leader of the country doesn't have the guts to stand up and do what's right, doesn't mean that we, the people, share his views. So keep in mind, folks, that the American people, especially you who live overseas, and those of you who are living in this country, and I know are having a lot of conversations regarding the will, the strength, and the spirit of America. Just remember this, folks, we're Americans. We win, we win, we win. And at the end of the day, and I repeated this all week, at the end of the day, we will send our enemies into the ash bin of history. Make no mistake about that. John?
Well, I think the strength of the country, what you're saying, Steve, is not in our leadership. The strength of America is in its people. People like Dawn, who are on their backs and getting up off the ground and picking themselves up and proceeding forward. And that's what's great about this country. That's why we have elections. As you know, there are some now in both political parties that would rather not have elections. They would rather just dictate from the top on down. That's not how America is structured, and they're trying to change that. And that's what's concerning. To me, what's concerning is that they are trying to change the way we do elections. They're trying to change the way we look at the Constitution. This concept of the Constitution is a living, breathing document. I mean, how absurd can you be? It's not a living, breathing document. It's a document of principles, and based upon human nature and the founding fathers' understanding of human nature. The difference between communism that tries to make the new man versus the founding fathers' principles of liberty, where people need to be free in their economic and social lives. So what's particularly troubling right now to me and to many of the people that I speak to is the institutions are becoming captured. And that's a term of art used that I've borrowed from another podcast. Two people that are not on the same side of me politically, but they're academics, and they're concerned about how academia in science has been captured. And that's what's troubling me. When you see our institutions, like the FDA, we just had, as you know, two of the chief people responsible for looking at new drugs and and vaccines resign in protest of what's going on. So the idea that our institutions being captured needs to be addressed. We have the rise of the bureaucratic state in America, unelected people like Dr. Fauci and others who want to dictate from the top down. They have no electoral responsibility, no responsibility to American people except the lip service that they pay to those words. And that's the troubling aspect. You know, we do have an element in America now in one of the political parties, and I said it's in both, but it particularly predominates in the Democratic Party, where they want to change the structure and they want to make it a top-down structure. And that's what we're seeing. And it's causing a tug. It's causing neighbors and friendships to dissolve, families fighting with each other, brothers and sisters, parents and the children. It's quite troubling. But I believe in the man that's behind you, and Ronald Reagan, who did say that we're only one generation away from slavery. But I do believe that the people like Dawn are out there, and they won't tolerate what's going on. And that's the reason why we have to maintain the integrity of our elections. We need to know who's voting in these elections.
Well, John, to that point, before we get into the lies and the false narratives that we were fed by General Mark Milley, Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Joe Biden, I want to talk about what certainly appears to be outright lying from Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci, an unelected individual who's been given a microphone that has helped lead this nation down a path like I've never seen before. You know, hear people accuse people like me or others of being anti-vaxxers. First of all, I want to get something straight. We've always said it. We've been very consistent on this broadcast. You want to get a vaccine, go get it. It's your business. You don't want to get it, you don't get it. It's your business. My point is, it's your business, not the government's business. It's your business with your doctor and your family and your children, not the government's business. So when I hear being an anti-vaxxer, no, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm pro-freedom, pro-liberty, pro-rights. That's what we're for. So, John, to your point about a couple of things, we've allowed the enemies of this country to not only hijack, as you say, capture our institutions, we've allowed them to take over the conversation. And they're beginning to define who we are. They're beginning to define what we're saying. And the fact of the matter is, folks, we are now beginning to take over the conversation. We, the people, because action is now being taken across the country. Now, John's going to share with us a few things about Dr. Fauci, what he said in the past, what he's saying now, and perhaps proof that he indeed was lying. But as recent as today, firefighters, police officers are beginning to stage strong protests against their local governments that are mandating vaccines. We need people to stand up and to fight, to be the voices of those most threatened. John, it's a difficult thing for a person who has to feed their kids, pay their taxes, pay their mortgage for some employer to come to them and say, it's either the jab or it's your job. Well, look, folks, individuals have to survive. I get it. I understand it. And I would never ask anybody to put their heads on a guillotine like that. You do what you think is right for you and your family. Nobody's going to hold anything against you. Frankly, it's nobody's business. But I have said, down the road, there's got to be lawsuits. People have to be held accountable. Now, we, the people who are not threatened by these draconian laws and these tyrants, there's tyrants all over the place, we can take action. And to see policemen and firemen now protest, we've got to protest. We've got to go out and we've got to protest the biggest way we can. And that protest is what? Getting people elected to office that will throw these individuals, passing these laws and supporting these policies that are opposed to our constitutional rights, out of office. It can be done. John, we've seen it. We've seen it happen. When people rise up at their local school boards against critical race theory, these school board members were running with their tail between their legs, resigning, running, and now we've got people running for office all over the country as low as a local school board beginning to take control of their political atmosphere in their communities, as well as the conversation. John, what about Dr. Fauci?
Well, I'm not here to say he's a liar. I'm not here to say he's anything but what he is. He is an 80-year-old systemic bureaucrat that's been part of the national conversations where he found his fame during the AIDS crisis and was accused of a lot of things back then. But as it surrounds what's going on right now, Dr. Fauci appears to be in maybe over his head. And, I found something that was incredible, and I heard people talk about it, so I went looking for it. There was an article published in the American Society of Microbiology, published on October 9th, 2012. It's the September through October edition of the American Society of Microbiology's publications, Steve. And the title of it is called Research on Highly Pathogenic H5N1 Influenza Virus, the Way Forward. And the abstract is very simple. They want to talk about, they actually take the position to maintain the moratorium on a gain-of-function research that was inputted and mandated by an executive order from President Obama. But while the abstract makes that argument, the author of this article reveals themselves. And I want to quote. The premise of the article is, should we be doing gain-of-function research, and what is the way forward? And one of the quotes here is very specific. He said, scientists working in this field, talking about gain-of-function, might say, as I have said, that the benefits of such experiments and the resulting knowledge outweigh the risks. He goes on to say, we cannot expect those who have these concerns to simply take the scientific community at our word, and the benefits of this work, talking about gain of function, the benefits of this work outweigh the risks, nor can we ignore their calls for great transparency. Their concerns about conflicts of interest and their efforts to engage in a dialogue about whether these experiments should be or have been performed in the first place. Those of us in the scientific community who believe in the merits of this work have the responsibility to address these concerns thoughtfully and respectfully. And let me tell you who that author was.
Yeah,
that was Dr. Fauci.
All right, I have a question for you, John, because this is the meat of it, what I'm driving at. Dr. Fauci testified before Congress. And from what I understand and from what I'm reading, he told the United States Congress, or at least on that committee, that the United States was not committing any funding to the Wuhan laboratory. Those were his words.
Yes.
Now we find out through documents that were released, and I think it was Rand Paul who actually now has said this, that Fauci lied. That he lied, that the United States of America, U.S. government was funding or in part. So now my question is, look, the guy's credibility is shot. I know you won't call him a liar, but I will. When you get before the American people and you're making statements that are false, according to these reports. Now, of course, these reports have to be confirmed, etc. But at least up to this point, he was not being truthful with the American people. And if he wasn't being truthful, then why would we believe anything he says? Just like why would we believe anything Joe Biden says?
Well, look, people can use their own good judgment. The information you're referring to was published by The Intercept, and they obtained original documents of Echo Labs in how a grant money was given to Echo Labs. This is in the documents, and we have to authenticate those documents, as you point out. But in those documents are the applications for money going to the Wuhan lab for gain of function research regarding specifically SARS-CoV and COVID viruses and dealing with bats. And they acknowledge the risk of this type of research right in the applications. If those documents are authenticated and those facts are true, they are what they are. Just like Dr. Fauci's opinion is what it is, as he stated. He favored gain of function research. The quote that I left out that's of vital importance, I think, for people to understand, is this particular quote here, Steve, where he basically says the potential benefits and risks of these experiments must be discussed and understood by multiple stakeholders, including the general public, and all decisions regarding such research be made in a transparent manner. Now, you have to ask yourself this question: why is he not being transparent now? He basically says the benefits of such experiments outweigh the risk. Now, let's think about that for a second. He says it outweighs the risk, even for a pandemic to occur. Now, what is a pandemic? It's a cause. People die in pandemics. So he's saying the scientific knowledge is worth people dying.
Yeah, but perhaps maybe we're the guinea pigs, John.
And that's what this document states. This is what he wrote. It's his language. I'm only quoting what he said. I'm not coloring it. I'm not presenting it in a way that's one way or the other. This is what he wrote. So you have to take him at his word that he supported this, and he believed it was risking a pandemic, okay, is in the interest of science, but more beneficial in the long run. That's his argument. So let him come forward, as he says in his paper, and be transparent. And if I was Rand Paul or anyone on the Senate Judiciary Committee or government services committees, I would bring him forward and I would ask him about this document, and have him ask him to be transparent about it.
Well, John, I don't know if you heard me. Then it sounds like we're the guinea pigs, for goodness sakes. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. But I'm glad you brought those documents up. And folks, we'll see what happens. As John said, Dr. Fauci has to be transparent. If he isn't, I think that they ought to end his career. They ought to tell him to retire and go away and just stay out from behind a microphone. All right, Joe Biden, General Mark Milley. We still have a petition out there, folks. It's online. We've got a few thousand. I think we're up to nearing 2,000 signatures. We want more. We're looking for 10,000. We're asking for the removal. In fact, even the court martial of General Mark Milley, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staffs, and I'll tell you why. As well as, of course, we'd like to see Joe Biden impeached or the 25th Amendment be invoked, which gets us into more trouble. But he may be around for a while, at least until we get people elected to office in the coming years. But here's the story with this whole thing, folks. And I've been asked on the air all week for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. Same question over and over again. Really, what's going on? What's happening? Has Joe Biden, General Milley, and others, and Austin, Secretary of Defense, have they been honest with the American people? My answer is unequivocally no. And I'll qualify this, John. To begin with, I worked in the intelligence community of this nation for many years. We got the best, the most effective intelligence apparatus on this planet. I mean, we work well, very well in gathering and collecting intelligence information about every country on earth, about every problem, every hotspot. We know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it if necessary. So
every podcast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, we have a situation in Afghanistan right now at this hour where we have Americans that have been left behind by this government. And John, what's more appalling is now to find out that those Americans could have gotten out with the private contractors who are there, the retired vets who are there with the planes, and the State Department. The United States State Department has refused to give those aircraft permission to take off. Folks, that's mind-boggling. John, that is absolutely mind-boggling.
It's disgusting if true. And the reports are numerous. This isn't one person making that claim, Steve, as you know. The reports are numerous. Many people are making that claim. And you can speculate as to why this is happening, why the State Department is doing that. I suppose if you want to keep the story quiet and you don't want to emphasize and show the public your error, and you don't want to be transparent, I suppose the best thing to do is leave the people in jail. Let them. Or in the past, that's what leaders would do. They buried the story. They buried the information by burying the people that were involved. And it seems rather odd to me that we have Congress people in both parties. Senator Blumenthal, for crying out loud, a Vietnam vet, okay, is out there very unhappy with the administration. So you see, this is not just about a political party. This seems to be a war against information, and the people that are caught up in that war to let information out are the people that are behind the lines, and that were left there knowingly. It's indisputable that the American troops pulled out while there are Americans there. They acknowledge that. They may have been, the numbers may even not be accurate. They were saying 100 to 200. And they say 100 to 200 like it's meaningless. That's 100% difference. That's double the amount of people. If you're saying 1 to 200, how can you just minimize 100 lives like that? Why isn't it 2,000? We don't know. And the bottom line is very simple, and it comes down to trust. When you see Milley, when you see the defense secretary come on the air and make these statements, Steve, American people see it in their faces. And I go back to when the Gulf War started. Our generals, our government spoke to us. You could tell on the air that the people who were speaking to us with knowledge and information and facts. What we're not getting from this State Department or from any of the elected or the administration officials, we're not getting facts. What we're getting is excuses and stories. And that, as a lawyer, I can tell you, is a real tell that something is amiss here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I've been asked consistently on the air these questions. Let's start with the first question. Lieutenant Rogers, do you, based on your experience, believe that the United States military, the United States intelligence agencies, believed that it would take months, not days, for the Taliban to come into Kabul? My answer is no, folks. Absolutely not. They knew that the Taliban, in my view, was going to come in days. But yet they fed the American people what I say is an outright lie that it would take months. They had to know. We have the greatest, as I said, military intelligence gathering apparatus on earth. My goodness, we have satellites that watch troop movements, for goodness sakes. So we had to know what was happening on the ground and the fact that they were coming. Well, Lieutenant, how about the fact that General Milley was actually, kind of supporting President Biden's narrative on this? Well, herein lies the issue I have with General Milley. Distinguished service record, yes. I think the guy had a great career. Time for him to go, folks. I'll tell you why. In my view, he supported a policy he knew. And John, you said it before. When you looked at General Schwarzkopf, General Powell, those warriors, George Patton, I wasn't around then. I think I was a kid then. But George Patton, the speeches they made, the press conferences they had during the Gulf War, folks. These were leaders. You could see they were determined to win a war. They weren't lying. Well, when I saw General Milley, Austin, and others at those press conferences, I could tell, folks. I could tell something was amiss here. They weren't in full support. And General Mark Milley should have stood up like a man. And yeah, people would say, well, he would have risked his career. Good. You had a career. Resign. Quit. Go home. Yeah, enough is enough. You don't lie or support a false narrative. So the fact of the matter is, folks, is that I believe that they knew the Taliban were coming in. But John, here is something that I'm still mystified over. I believe they knew all this was coming. Why shut down Bagram Air Base? Why do that? But I found out today something that has to be confirmed. I think it's out there in the press. If not, check it out. We always say if we don't have exact confirmation, you need to check it out. That the idea has been floating around that the Chinese Communist Party is looking to take over Bagram Air Base. I don't know. Did you hear that, John, at all? You did. Would you please tell me a little bit about that? Because I briefly got that report about an hour ago.
Well, I had heard about that, Steve, back in the spring from people that I know that work in Washington. This was not, in fact, what was said to me was, watch what happens with the air base that we built, with the equipment still there. That's what I was told. And back in April, frankly, I wasn't paying that much attention to what was going on in Afghanistan. As you know, America was distracted with regard to mask mandates, no mask mandates, vaccines work, they don't work, all this stuff. And so I wasn't paying that close attention. But someone, a good friend of mine that I went to school with, mentioned to me, just watch what happens. And so I can't confirm the report, Steve. I can only tell you what I heard directly. I don't have any firsthand knowledge. But I would say this, Steve. You know, we do have evidence that they knew because we do have the limited transcript so far that was released between President Biden and the president of Afghanistan. And the president of Afghanistan told President Biden, they're coming, they're here. And what was Biden's response this is right in the transcript for everyone to read. His response was, basically saying, we have to put the best face on it, whether it's true or not. We have to maintain essentially a story going forward that doesn't include how bad things are going to be. That's what he said, and so the president of the United States, we're not even talking to the intelligence community. It was told by the president of Afghanistan, the barbarians are at the gate. Help, give us air support. He was denied that.
And so, folks, President Donald J. Trump makes a phone call to the Ukrainian president, and they move to impeach him. And here's a guy, Joe Biden, who makes a call to a government under fire, suggesting outright to give a false narrative to the entire world. No impeachment, folks. Nobody seems to be doing much about that. But we can. And here's my point, folks. We've been lied to. We've been misled. The false narratives on and on and on. We got a petition out there. I'd like you to look at it, sign it if you could, and forward it to your friends and neighbors. And the purpose of this petition is to be a voice for those who feel they're helpless, because we're going to take these petitions and they're going to get to every congressman in that U.S. Congress once we get 10,000 signatures. And we want that general out. Him, Austin, out. Maybe the politicians don't go out, but we can certainly have a great voice in having a general in this military that, in my view, let us down, betrayed the American people, betrayed people like me who served in the United States military, betrayed our troops who fought and died there. He should have stood up like a man, like a military leader should, and represent what's right and just, not represent what's political. Look at the petition. It's on our Facebook page. It's online. If you don't have it, can't find it, you see that red banner under me and John? It says campaignforamerica.com. That's our website. Go to our contact page. Just give us your name and email. We don't need anything else. We'll send you the link. It's vitally important we take action. Now, John, you and I have talked about this. People have said they feel helpless, hopeless. All that's going on is depressing. But I was asked this question again on the air about, well, where do we go from here? What do you expect America is going to do as we move forward? I still believe we are the shining city upon a hill. I still believe that there is an American spirit, as John talked about, and as Dawn Maloney proved to us through all the thick and thin that this country goes through. There are still great Americans like all of you out there watching who are willing to stand up and speak out, take some sort of action in your local communities to get the message out that we are Americans. We don't lose. We win, and we don't stop winning. And this is a message that we need to get to people all over the world. It's like I said tonight, we've got people as far as Australia watching us right now. And I know our enemies are watching us. Believe me, I know they monitor and they watch. And my news to the Chinese Communist Party has been and will be, as we launch our Campaign for America, campaign, John, all across America for America, is that we're going to send them to the ash bin of history. Communists, I don't use the word hate often, folks. I hate communists. Communists represent evil. They represent atheism, socialism, communism, enslavement, everything contrary to the American spirit. Communists represent. Now, I've gotten a little heat over calling the Democrat Party of the 21st century an evil party. Well, you are an evil party. The Democrat Party of the United States in the 21st century that supports policies like abortion, policies, John, that are in total opposition to the Texas law. John, I'm going to ask you a question before we wind down. We talk about guys like Fauci believing in the science. Well, why are these politicians and Fauci believing in the science when it comes to this virus and not in the science when it comes to an unborn baby that shows there's a heartbeat? What's the difference between the two sciences, John?
Well, the difference is in the rhetoric. The science of the left is convenient and only convenient if something proves one of their narratives. But the broader picture, Steve, with the socialists and the communists is, as you point out, these are people that not only are maybe, as you label them, evil. I think these people are deeply psychologically flawed back to childhood. That get involved with this twisted ideology of having to tell people how to live and what to do. This notion, this desire within them to tell other people how to live when they themselves need to look in the mirror. The science issue here is interesting because it's not about science. It's about their agenda. So when they say climate change, follow the science. Well, follow that science because when you find the lies that support these narratives that they put forward, it's very easy to destroy because the science 99% of the time doesn't support any of their agendas that are out there. And that's the one good thing about the internet. Now, the internet is being turned against people like Campaign for America, other people who want to think for themselves. We've seen the big tech in the marriage of even though it's not government, they're doing the bidding of government in terms of censorship. And, Facebook, YouTube, at one time, it wasn't consequential politically. It has become, and that alignment of big tech is very fascist. I mean, we saw what happened with Hitler. What Hitler did was he got all the corporations in Germany to support his efforts through their efforts. And you see that now with the different mandates. Going back to the science for a second, we're talking about a vaccine, okay, that whether the efficacy of it is fine, but we do now know that they have admitted that it doesn't last that long. And they're calling it a booster. I mean, isn't it a better label to say they're being revaccinated? I mean, so as you talk about controlling the language, but where we go from here, Steve, is that we fight back communism and in all of their doctrines say they will never quit. And so it goes back to your childhood. Do you want to teach your kids to name call? So I would ask the people watching this, when you see people call you a name or call me a name, ask this question: who's name calling here? Is that what I want my kids to learn? So if Americans and people of goodwill start to look at what's being done to them by name calling, does this comport with something I would want to raise my kid? Do I want my kid to call you an anti-vaxxer? I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've been vaccinated for mumps, measles, rubella, everything. Okay, I have had COVID. I have antibodies that is better than any vaccine that they can come up with. That's the science. Okay. So this concept of science, we're going to use the science for COVID. Well, or we're going to use the science on the abortion issue, where you want to protect life. We know that it is a human life. I've heard people say it's potential life. That was the saying 20 years ago. Oh, it's potential life. It isn't viable. Well, as you said, technology has increased, and we now know that there's a pain. The Pain Capable Act that was put forth in Congress 3 years ago. So they use science as a tool in the toolbox, the kit, to motivate people to act. But I would ask people watching anything they see on television, when you see people name calling, the antenna should go up. You don't have to control.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a duty. We have an obligation to our founding fathers. We have an obligation to our children and grandchildren and future generations of Americans. And I would dare to say we have a duty and obligation to God Almighty, who gave us the divine gifts of liberty and freedom. We must protect it. We must protect it at all costs. And there's not much that we really have to do to protect it other than voice our opinions, express our views, and go out and vote. This is a great republic. We have an opportunity coming up in November of this year to change a lot of state legislators, throw every Democrat out of office. Oh, there'll be Democrats saying, but I don't support those policies that you're talking about. Well, if you don't support them, why aren't you speaking out against them? See, they can't, folks. They can't. That's politics. John, you and I have been in politics our whole adult life. People get entangled. They get entangled into the politics, and they're bought and sold like somebody selling cattle on a ranch. But we don't get bought and sold. We, the people, you, me, and others of like mind. So let's remember who our obligation is to. No political party, no politician, but to God Almighty, our founding fathers, every American military person, every American individual from the day we were created who fought and died for this country, and every American moving forward. We have a duty and obligation to protect the freedom that was given to us by divine guidance, by God Almighty. All right, folks, that's it. John, any last words before we turn off?
Keep your dukes up. Fight for liberty.
Thank you. All right, folks, next Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. here on Campaign for America, September 17th. Look for us. We're going to be coming on the air from time to time during the week with short notes, if you will, about what's going on. September 17th will be at Dawn Maloney's studio. Please join us. Now, you see that campaignforamerica.com? Give us, just get to that website. Just contact us via the website, and we'll send you information about the petition that we have seeking the removal of General Mark Milley, and we'll get you information about September 17th. Folks, September 11th is coming. It's a day we all remember. Let us keep our nation in prayer. Let us keep our relatives in prayer. Let us ask God Almighty to keep our nation safe. He is a powerful God. Nobody's ever going to overcome him. Nobody on earth, in the heavens or below, says the Bible. We love God. God loves us. I really believe he has the shadow of his wings over our nation. There is hope. There is hope in Christ. Remember that. Thank you so much. God bless you. Till next Wednesday. God bless America.